I've always had a very creative imagination. And here's a good example of that. So when I was 7, I wanted a dog so badly, and my family would never get a dog because my dad and my brother had insane pet allergies, but also my parents had 4 kids, so like why would they want like a toddler running around in the shape of a dog? So I just had an imaginary dog, and he came with me wherever I wanted him to go. And I don't remember what I called him, but he was a golden retriever, and he wasn't allowed in the car, so he would just like run alongside the car, even at like 60 miles an hour. And I just always had a very active imagination. And I also grew up in being exposed more to like the world, or what was framed to me as the world, got made my imagination get a little bit more scary. So my parents and the community that I grew up in did a really good job at setting boundaries around what was appropriate to watch and what media was appropriate to consume. And keep in mind that this was like, I was born in 1989, so like we're talking cable and that's it. Like streaming wasn't a thing. Cell phones with screens that are connected to Wi-Fi aren't a thing, like weren't a thing back then. But because there were some pretty rigid boundaries and rules around what we could watch and consume, my siblings and I got really sneaky and we were like really good sneak arounders. And what we did was we were able to get old TVs like in our basement and figure out how to connect it to cable. So we were able to get things like Jerry Springer and Maury, which was like our favorites because just the delightful humans that were on those TV shows just lived such different lives than what we as like sheltered religious kids like grew up to be, or like were exposed to. That also turned into like me watching things like Dateline and Lifetime movies, which I mean, Lifetime movies are at best like maybe PG-13, but they're definitely more adult themed, and they're more like drama based and true crime and unsolved mysteries. And it definitely just like made an impact watching those things.
My
And
brother and I used to have a joke about Lifetime movies
yeah, what was it?
because they were always like, if you ever saw the commercials, it would be like, she was going to check her mail, but then she checked out of this world. And there was always like some woman just doing something very normal, like she bent down to tie her shoe, and that was the last thing she saw. And so, yeah, Lifetime was low key very scary. And we would constantly like make up dumb little taglines about, like, hey, I got to go do this. She went to go do that. And then, talk about how I would have died in the Lifetime movie. So, yeah, I totally get it. Lifetime was made to make women feel very scared to live in the world.
Oh, 100%. And then
Mhm.
also like couple that with like Dateline too, and especially around like the unsolved like murders and the mysteries and crimes. And I never saw like the Datelines where they had like famous people come on and like talk about their lives. It was always like the most intense sort of like Dateline plots, that typically had to do with like little kids getting like E. coli, or like yeah, just kidnappings or something like that. Anyway, it definitely impacted my anxiety, especially with just seeing that the nice, safe bubble that I was in, life wasn't always like that for everyone else. But I think too, I was thinking about this morning, especially when you grow up super religious, another thing that kind of boggles my mind, and you and I have talked about this like a few times before, but how kind of like the fanatical, or just like some of the stories in the Bible and like religious stories in scripture are so like fantastical, and they're more of like you can't predict them because it comes from God, and they just like something can happen because like you do the wrong thing or you say the wrong thing and it just like happens. So I think all of that kind of like produced anxiety, or more anxiety in me. And then what I realized too, I was doing some research about kids with overactive imaginations, and I came across this article about how sometimes when kids who have a hard time emotionally regulating, which was definitely me, that it can lead to overactive imagination, and it more so blurs the lines in between what's imaginary and real. And so that was me a lot of the times. Um, and especially because like as a young kid, I was so good at suppressing my feelings and just pretending that they weren't there. And a lot of times when emotions felt like really overwhelming, it felt like they were forces that I couldn't control. So yeah, emotional regulation was not my strong suit. But this particular story, and one of the reasons why we were under the bed, started when we were living in Denver. So my parents purchased a home when we first moved there with an unfinished basement. But then as we got older, they were able to finish the basement. It had like there were some unfinished parts of the basement, so like a food storage and just like storage room, and then that was the unfinished parts. But then they built out like a lot of storage and a craft area and kind of a playroom and a little like book nook, and they put down there a bedroom and a full bath. um and I don't know how I got so lucky, but they chose me out of my siblings to like just be down there and to have that be my bedroom. And I loved it. My little introvert heart loved it. But the two things that were absolutely terrifying to me being in the basement was one, spiders. So growing up in Denver, especially because they have such strong seasons, and typically with like winter, it kills all the bugs. We never really invested in pest control, which kind of blew my mind living. I mean, maybe it did this to you too, but you've lived in the South more than me, Casey. So like coming to Texas and realizing that like pest control was something that you had to do every month
Yeah.
to keep the bugs at bay.
A little bit more serious and warmer
Yeah,
than it is in places that have like cold winters. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. So
Yeah.
we would get like spiders, and I was like deathly afraid of spiders, and so every once in a while there are kind of set it up. We had stairs going down into the basement, and then I basically had to turn a corner and go down a little hallway to get to my bedroom. And so once I turned the corner, there were typically spiders because that was where like the furnace and like the unfinished parts of the basement were. And we're talking maybe like at the largest, like a silver dollar size. So like not very big, but I remember just like being so freaked out and just like crying and going up and getting my mom to come down and kill it. And then she eventually like helped me train me to get like a fly swatter and kill it. So not only was I like already nervous going into my bedroom to do my nightly routine to get to bed because of like these spiders and just like anticipating them, for some reason I had like just imagined that there was a boogeyman who lived under my bed. And this boogeyman had like really long fingers and long hair and just was like, it kind of looked like if Longlegs, like Nicolas Cage movie Longlegs, and the new Robert Edgar's like Nosferatu had a love child. So it
God.
wasn't like it didn't look like an alien or like the swamp creature. It looked like someone that could potentially show up on like a Lifetime movie. But just like living under my bed, he was nocturnal. And anytime that it got really dark, that's when he would like wake up. Like as soon as I shut the lights off, like he would wake up. And the one thing he wanted to do was to grab my ankles. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
and then to pull me under the bed.
That's how they
So
get you. Mm-hmm.
yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about the ankles. And I had some pretty skinny ankles, so they could get a good grip on them.
Especially with those long, creepy fingers that he
Yeah,
had.
yes, it is so true. So what I would do, and this happened like throughout my whole, I think I moved down into the basement like middle school, and it even like happened a little bit in like as a freshman in high school too, where I would make sure there weren't any spiders. I would turn on all the lights at first, like in the basement. And then one by one, I would turn them all off and I would get to my bedroom door and then I would turn them off and I would like jump, like leap from my door to my bed and then wrap myself in like a burrito in a blanket and then I would fall asleep. But that just happened like for years. And I'm so lucky that the boogeyman never grabbed my ankles. And even thinking about it this morning before like the call, I was like, how come I never was scared about like the boogeyman being awake when I woke up? Because I would wake up pretty early too.
Yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes like the sun wasn't up, but for some reason it was like he knew in my mind I was like he knew that my dad was awake like upstairs because you could hear like people if they were in the living room or kitchen and yeah, it was safe. Yeah, for some reason, boogeyman, he was there. He was under my bed.
I have a question.
Yeah, go
Kind
for
of feel like right now with your legs under your desk that you have to like pull them back in case he's under your desk right now.
it. You know what's so funny is like my legs are literally bent. Um, like they are under my chair. I think it's more just to keep me. I think I need that more like proprioceptive like input and stuff. So I'm always like my leg is up or whatever. But
Gotta know where your legs are at if there's some weirdo that's hiding under small spaces with long, gnarly fingers to pull you under.
I know, I know.
Makes
He
sense.
luckily hasn't moved to with me to Texas. He didn't move to me with me to like New York or to LA even, or to Logan, or to Salt Lake, or to Austin. So I'm feeling pretty lucky.
Oh, so he's probably still in Denver.
Yeah, I think he's still in the house, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I really like, I just want to say is that you're scared of spiders, but we're under a bed where spiders also like to go. So I just want to applaud you for being brave.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to tell you what I heard, Chelsea.
Yeah, please.
I heard that you were a young kid with an active imagination, and it was serving a very important purpose in your life, helping you regulate your emotions, especially really big, intense ones like anxiety. And you were a kid with some life experience, but not a lot of context for other parts of life that you weren't really aware of or exposed to regularly. And so when those things were living in your brain and your mental models were sometimes I'm safe, but sometimes I'm not, because there are things in this world that I don't know anything about, but also I don't want to tell my parents I know about them because I wasn't supposed to. Makes
Yeah.
sense to me that with anxiety running rampant and a weird, really ugly, scary, creepy guy under your bed waiting to grab your ankles, that you would feel such intense anxiety because that anxiety was preparing you to like, fight and also burrito up because everyone knows that a monster under their bed will not grab you if you're under the blanket. Outside of the blanket, all bets are off, but under that blanket, they respect that like bubble that you've put yourself in.
Yeah, it's kind of like base, like tag, where there was always like a base if you touched the tree or if you stood in the right spot.
Hmm. Well, how do you feel now about this?
I think it's really funny.
Uh,
And I think you beautifully said it of like I just was just missing a lot of context as a kid.
mhm.
So my overactive imagination was just like trying to fill in the blanks. But I feel like I would try to befriend the boogeyman now if he was here, you know?
I mean, maybe he just wanted to play.
Yeah,
Although we did talk about it briefly
we
before.
did.
And sometimes when a creepy looking monster invites you to play, it's not a good idea.
It's very true. And he'll only come around well, it only came around every 7 years, but the boogeyman was there for like 4 years. I think it was like a 4 year stint. But maybe it's like every, I don't know, maybe he'll turn up. Maybe.
Well, like maybe because you hung around for so long, you might be onto something. Maybe you just wanted a friend.
Yeah. That's
I'm
true.
scared of spiders too, but now I'm afraid to get them out from under this bed because I heard that they're in their hallway. I can't leave.
Yeah.
I have to stay here now.
That's so true. Yeah, I should have like put like an offering or something, like an
Yeah.
apple, or I don't know what he would like. Maybe I should have like done one of those. Did you ever in
Probably
school
like
like
a
do, like a
nail kit if he has long gnarly nail fingered nails. Yeah, you should have gotten him one of those like nail kits that they sell at Christmas time.
Yeah, I like that. I
And then
think
it's like this really glamorous manicured hand reaches out to grab you.
like, oh,
You're like, hey, who are you?
yeah, you do my nails? Nail party.
I love it.
Oh, funny. Yeah, but it's funny. I think I'm more just like it's funny to go back in and look at these things and see what active imaginations we have and how I think like the active imagination is still pretty prevalent in my head, but I've fueled it more to like creativity of like, can I create something with it? Can I do something more with it? Uh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, like,
yeah,
yeah, because it makes sense too if it's a way that if imagination is how you've regulated emotions in the past, then it makes sense that you would use creativity to help you kind of process feelings, but then also, of course, that you would land on something like color mending and developing that because it's a creative way to process your emotions.
yeah,
So, in some ways, you might owe the boogeyman royalties for your
yeah.
idea.
Maybe I should like draft up an agreement with him.
Yeah.
Just feel like, here's your royalties.
Here's a cut of all the creative projects I've done thanks to you.
Yes, thank you, Boogeyman. I don't even have like a name for him either, but
Mm.
yeah, I'll think on it though. Well, maybe I'll just like put a pen and paper out and see. Maybe it's like a Ouija board. Maybe if I,
You know what I think we definitely should do though is you know how at the end of like TV shows when someone's passed away or whatever and it's like in loving memory, I
yeah,
definitely feel like we need to have some sort of like ode or tribute to the boogeyman at the end of this. That'll be our button.
yes, we have to.
Okay.
Okay, done. Scene, Finn. Yeah.
See you next time, Chelsea. I'm gonna
Yeah.
invite you out from underneath that bed and let's go see if we can find somewhere else to explore.
Oh, I like this. Do you have a secret? Because we can go somewhere else.
Well,
Let me tell
if
you.
you have an overactive imagination, let me tell you.
Okay.